What screams I'm terrible with money? My old roommate was terrible with money. She couldn't afford her car payment, so she went out and got a brand new car so she wouldn't have to make a payment for another month. I'm not kidding. No idea how she got approved for the loan. Crying to me that she can't pay her rent and skips meals so that her cats can eat. Next weekend charges 1k on cosplay items because it's an investment. These are high quality and will last me for years. Also, she buys small bags of $20 designer coffee. Asking you what they should buy because they have a little left over from their paycheck. Save it. Fun money is fine, but if you don't even know what you want to waste money on and it's just burning a hole in your pocket, just freaking save it. I have a friend who was recently working a lower wage hourly job, car mechanic of some kind. He has a juvie record, never been had responsible for much in his life. He recently inherited about $30k and decided to buy a new truck, new gaming computer, and then packed up his stuff, his fiancée, and moved from Central Texas to Colorado in hopes of opening a marijuana dispensary. Within 3 weeks, he was broke and moved back to Central Texas, but had to borrow money the first week back to be able to eat. I mean, there was no thought as to how he was going to start up a business. He just knew he wanted to legally sell weed in a state oversaturated with other legal weed brokers. He's good at playing video games though. First date. I know that my profile says I wouldn't date someone in considerable debt, but I'm actually 8 grand in debt. What did you buy? Go to uni. Nah, just stuff at it. She didn't drive, go to uni, or have medical bills. UK anyway, she also lived at home. By stuff I mean stuff. Driving a Mercedes when you have a second chance checking account. Financing a puppy. Friend and her fiance are saving to buy a place together. The friend works her ass off, is very frugal and saves up a lot. Meanwhile, the fiance bought a plot of land and a trailer to put on said land without telling her. She found out when she saw the massive withdrawal in their joint bank account. Edit. Fiance, not fiance. You take money out of your 401k to buy random shit. I'm honestly not sure there's a worse financial decision one can make. Filling your giant swimming pool up then being unable to pay the water bill, resulting in your water being shut off for months, forcing you to use the pool water for your water needs, as in flushing the toilet, cooking, drinking, etc. Until the health debt catches wind of it and has your kids tack. Then you go around the neighborhood knocking on doors asking your neighbors for money to pay your water bill so you can get your kids back. They will come take your kids in this state if your house is without water for X days because it's considered uninhabitable. Having Rent-A-Center come out with a giant TV and living room suite. Having Comcast come out the same day and turn on your cable, but not paying your electric bill, so 3 days later you're knocking on your neighbor's doors asking for money to pay your electric bill because it's been turned off. Then sneaking onto same neighbors' porches at night and plugging extension cords into their porch outlets. These were my old neighbors. Well, let's see. My ex-father-in-law was incredibly bad with money. He would constantly buy and trade in new cars over and over again. I'm talking 60k cars too. New trucks, Jeeps, a Corvette, everything. In a year he'd easily go through 4 new cars at minimum. But oh wait, it gets better. He took an early withdrawal out of his 401k, paying penalties and all, to buy a Corvette while they offered 0% financing. On top of that, I found out he was taking multiple home equity loans out. He bought his house in 2003 for 80k and now owes 165k. All of this while constantly spouting to everyone about how, if you work hard, you can have these things too. Let's just say I'm happy to be out of that family and not with my ex anymore. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Edit. Almost forgot. He's retired and receiving a fixed income pension right now. He also does some work at an apartment complex. However, he works too much there and has to pay back part of his pension every year in taxes. I can't make this shit up, people. At least that is what he told me. If could be social security he's paying back, or he really just has no ducking clue what's going on. Lots of nicely done tattoos. but complains about not having enough money for basic necessities. Making $300 plus as a bartender in a night. Goes on a all-inclusive vacation every couple months. Goes out drinking almost every night. Finished nursing school 1.5 years ago and still hasn't written her licensing exam. Complains that she's gonna be paying off student loans forever. Girl, you could've paid off those loans in a year with the money you're making. Not to mention you live at home, and all major expenses are paid for. It's weird really. It's almost like people want to be stuck at the bottom. I once knew a waitress who complained about never being able to afford anything, then bought a brand new car. OMG, I can't afford my college textbooks, then takes a cruise in Mexico the next week. My doctor visit is $30, OMG I hate America, then proceeds to buy $80 eyeshadow. My sister. When our dad passed away in 2007, she received about $75k in 2 vehicles that still needed to be paid off. The payoff amounts for the 2 vehicles 2004 and 2005 models were $3k and $6k. Instead of doing what everyone else is thinking, she gives them back to the dealer and then buys 2 different vehicles for about $60k, a new 40-inch TV large for that time and new carpet installed that very same day for about $3k. She gave me $5k, and I made that last for 11 months. She blew through hers in about 5 weeks. Now, she is almost disabled, had to move 3 times due to her husband refusing to work, and threatened to kick as when I called him out on that, 2 very autistic kids, receives government assistance for the kids, and is always broke. My brother-in-law can't afford therapy for my 8-year-old nephew's neurological and learning disorders, but he can buy a motorcycle to add to his collection. Edit, he just bought an RV, but now my sister can't pay for her certification classes for her teaching career. I hate this man. Dude at work barely staying afloat when he was the sole provider of wife and kid. Wife gets a job, dual income. Situation is even worse now, always complaining about bills. Either him or family eats out multiple times a day. Dude just bought a brand new 50k truck the other week. The other day he said he doesn't know if he'll be able to keep up with bills. I know 5 people that fit this exact description. Brand new Subaru WRX, brand new iPhones or newest flagship phone every year, hundreds of dollars each week spent on vape gear and juice, California minimum wage job $11 an hour, lives at home with parents which may save them money in the long run, but doesn't do them any favors with their present spending. Habits I have learned from others: never to let them borrow money from you. They won't just never pay you back, they will get pissy and threaten you if you try and press the issue. Apparently their families are connected to Triad, which here in IVNCA is an actual possibility, so you have to actually be careful if you don't want strange things to happen. Ostentatious displays of alleged wealth flossing. People who don't have a lot of money, but who want others to assume they do, often drive the cheapest cars offered by luxury auto brands and or festoon themselves in branded clothing and accessories that scream branding with huge and or repetitive logos. A good example is a Louis Vuitton or Coach bag vs an Hermes Birkin bag. The LV or Coach bag seems expensive to most people and has the brand logo plastered all over it. The Hermes bag is both legitimately and shockingly expensive, and even having the opportunity to buy one isn't a guarantee, yet the Birkin really has no branding on it at all. If you're rich enough, you'll know what it is without having to have the brand screamed at you. Making well into 6 figures, but regularly having to borrow $200 from your children to make it to the next payday. Somebody that works a lot but never has money because they spend it all. So not only do they never have time because of work, but when they do have time, they don't have any money. Holy shit, my bill could fill up this whole page. Couple of bankruptcies, multiple car repos, always gets his vehicles from buy here pay here places, meaning he's paying a ridiculous interest rate for shit cars. Almost went to jail for falling behind on his child support about $8k, was crying on his sister's shoulder, my wife, about how broke he is. Then went on tell her about the $400 worth of fireworks he just bought for when the kids come over. My wife just finally stopped worrying about him because she finally figured out that he's never going to ever get it, and his life is a wash rinse repeat cycle that he brings on himself. When I was 16 years old, my uncle dad's brother, who was dying from cancer, gave me his car. My dad then proceeded to sell the car behind my back for $3,000. I only had a permit at the time and wasn't driving that much, and my dad said it'd be stupid for them to make monthly payments on a car I'd barely use. I actually agree with his reasoning, but I still don't like that he didn't tell me first before he sold it. But my parents needed to use the $3,000 to pay that year's taxes because my dad spent almost all of his money on new phones/computers/etc. I was alright with that because I was only 16 and didn't need $3,000 for anything at the time. My dad was supposed to pay me back over time. Except he never did. He continued to buy more gadgets for himself and didn't make an attempt to set aside anything for me. Now I'm 25, still living with my parents, and I started paying rent about a year ago, but my mom decided she would delay making me pay for a while to make up for the $3,000 my dad never gave me back. I'd be paying $200 a month otherwise, which is still rather cheap, so this gave me 15 more months to freeload off them. I'm ultimately satisfied with the deal, but bitter that my dad couldn't be bothered to do the decent thing and pay back his own son. Some other examples of how shitty my dad is. My parents paid $10,000 towards my sister's wedding, except I should really say parent, because my dad couldn't be bothered to set aside money to contribute toward that amount. It pretty much all came out of my mom's pocket. Also, my mom found him looking at a motor scooter online. He already had one and told him not to buy it, but he went and got it anyway. I confronted my mom on how she always ends up letting him get away with wasting his money, and she said, well, what can I do? Divorce him is the obvious answer, but she still stays with him for I don't know what reason. And yes, he's always done this. It isn't something he just started doing suddenly. My technically stepsister, who I've only ever met once, just lost her husband to suicide last year. He was in the military, and between what they paid her and what she got from insurance, she was going to be receiving something like $800K. In the couple of months that followed, she bought 4 cars, and 2 of them were for her friends. She's also spent almost every second since her husband's death high out of her mind, and will almost surely blow through that $800K before the year is up. Oh, and did I mention she has 2 young children under 10 years old, one of whom is autistic? Not only is she terrible with money, she's terrible at being a decent human being. I told my friend I was getting a credit card to just build credit and use it for things like gas and such. They proceeded to warn me to be careful because it's very easy to maximum out credit cards fast. Not a great example, but that always struck a chord with me, since I can't ever imagine coming even close to maximuming a credit card out unless necessary for my state of living/well-being. This was not the case for them, as they still lived at home and worked. I will never understand willingly putting yourself in any sort of debt for frivolous things. A friend of mine was complaining about how this country has gone to shit, and he can't afford rent as a middle school history teacher in one of the more affluent cities in the Bay Area. Turns out his car payment on his new truck was 1.2x his normal rent, and despite it getting 15 miles to the gallon, he frequently drove it 3 hours north to snowboard. Then, he starts dating a girl in a different state and drives to see her every other week. Still complains about rent though. Must be this godforsaken country. Refusing to make some lifestyle changes/sacrifices in order to have more money. Double points if the person advising you to do this thing is the literal consultant you went to for this problem. I work for non-profit, and we are meant to help working class families and full-time students, i.e. people with very little money to survive. Very often my friends will ask me if I can get them an appointment. I ask how much they make a year before taxes, or I'll assess their average income with 4 weeks worth at that time. They'll be over income, I will tell them, and they will ask how, and I'll inform them of the income guidelines. I assess income for a living. When I suggest making some lifestyle changes, my friends will try and tell me you don't know how much money it costs to have kids, or you have no idea how hard it is to pay a mortgage, or you don't know what it's like having to pay for bills and college at the same time. I do, I promise, because I literally do this every single day. You are the one who doesn't have the basic understanding of do not let your debts exceed your income. If your home costs too much, get a smaller home. If your car costs too much, get a cheaper car. If it's hard to pay for college, maybe it isn't your time to be going right now, or just get a cheaper degree at the community college down the road. I promise it's the same degree. Some people just live outside their income.